when you're 6, the world is mostly about what's in front of you. A soccer ball, a cereal box, the crack in the ceiling above your bed that kind of looks like a dragon if you stare at it long enough. For Jamie, that was life. He lived in a small rental with his mom and older sister, ate dinner on the couch, and counted cars out the window when he couldn't sleep. Nothing felt broken yet, just busy. His mom, Olivia, was always running late. To work, to school, to the store. She'd kiss him on the head and say, "Be good today," even if he was still half asleep. His dad, Mason, wasn't around much. Sometimes he'd show up on weekends, take Jamie and his sister Sarah out for pizza, act like nothing had changed, and then disappear again for weeks. Jamie didn't question it. He just got used to starting over every time Mason showed up with a new story and a new reason for being gone. Jamie started school like most kids. Nervous, quiet, always watching. He wasn't the loudest or the smartest. He was the one who noticed everything, who knew which kids had the good snacks, which teachers were nice, which hallways had the best hiding spots when you didn't want to be found. He made one good friend, a boy named Marcus, who lived 3 blocks away and had a backyard with a trampoline. They became inseparable until Marcus moved away the following summer and didn't say goodbye. That's the first time Jamie realized some things just end. No big moment, no warning, just over. By the time he turned 8, Olivia had enrolled in night classes. She wanted to get her degree in social work. She said it was for them, but Jamie mostly noticed that she was tired all the time. Sarah had started yelling more, slammed doors, fought with Olivia over everything from curfews to what music they played in the car. Jamie stayed quiet. He figured if he didn't add to the noise, maybe things would feel less heavy. Sometimes it worked, most times it didn't. Mason showed up with a motorcycle one weekend, said he was trying new things. He took Jamie for a ride around the neighborhood, didn't ask Olivia first. She freaked out when they got back. Jamie didn't understand why everyone was always mad at each other. Mason said, "Your mom's too uptight." Olivia said, "Your dad's still a child." Jamie believed both. He just wished someone would stop treating him like he couldn't hear everything they were saying. One night, after a quiet dinner, Olivia sat Jamie down and said they were moving. "Better school district," she explained. "More opportunities." Jamie nodded, even though he didn't know what that meant. He just knew it meant packing up again, leaving behind his room, his window, the crack in the ceiling that didn't look like a dragon anymore. He asked if Mason knew. Olivia paused, then said, "He will." That weekend, Mason didn't show up. No explanation, no text, just silence. Jamie sat on the floor in his half-empty bedroom and realized something important. The world doesn't wait for anyone, not even kids. The new place smelled like fresh paint and cheap carpet. The walls were clean, but the air felt hollow. It was a duplex near the edge of town, walking distance from the school. Olivia insisted it would be better for both of you. Jamie didn't see how. The kids looked the same. The classrooms had the same posters. The cafeteria still smelled like old milk and chicken nuggets. But Sarah seemed happy to be away from their last place. She started dressing differently, talking faster, making new friends almost overnight. Jamie kept to himself. He hated starting over. Every new school meant relearning the rules, who to avoid, what not to say, how to act like you weren't new when everyone already knew you were. He met a boy named Adam in art class. He wore mismatched socks, talked with his hands, and didn't care about fitting in. Jamie liked that. Adam showed him where to sit during lunch, which bathroom had the broken lock, and how to sneak into the janitor's closet to ditch assemblies. For a while, it was enough. They talked about comics, built a Lego city in Jamie's room, and made plans to ride their bikes to the end of town and back before summer ended. It felt like something normal, something solid. But at home, things weren't solid at all. Olivia was working full-time now while finishing her degree. Sarah was out late more often. Usually with friends, Jamie wasn't allowed to meet. Arguments got louder. Doors slammed harder. Jamie stayed quiet. When Olivia started dating someone new, a guy named Rob who wore ties and brought over wine, Jamie stayed even quieter. Rob was polite, asked about school, smiled at all the right moments. But he looked at Jamie like he was a guest in his own house. Jamie hated that. He started spending more time at Adam's place, where the parents were loud but honest, and the fridge was always open. Mason called twice in 6 months, once for Jamie's birthday, once to say he'd gotten a job in Austin. He said he'd visit. He didn't. Jamie stopped waiting. He still saved the voicemails though, played them back sometimes just to hear his dad's voice. It felt like listening to a version of the past that only existed for 5-minute calls and vague promises. That summer, Adam moved away. Another job transfer. Another goodbye that didn't feel real until the house across the street sat empty. Jamie didn't cry. He just watched the moving truck pull away and went back inside without saying anything. Later that week, Rob tried to talk to him. He asked how things were going, if Jamie wanted to talk about anything at all. Jamie said he was fine. Rob smiled like he believed him, but Jamie could tell he didn't. That night, Jamie lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. No dragons this time, just silence. Starting over wasn't exciting. It was exhausting, and Jamie was tired of pretending it didn't hurt. High school was louder, faster, meaner. It felt like everyone else had a manual Jamie hadn't read. He walked the halls with his hood up, earbuds in, trying to take up as little space as possible. His teachers called him smart, but distracted. Olivia said he needed to focus more. Sarah had already graduated and moved into a dorm 3 hours away. She texted sometimes, but not often. Rob was still around, still polite, still making meals Jamie didn't ask for. Olivia looked more tired than ever. She tried to keep things together, but Jamie could see it. The stress behind her smile, the way her hands shook when she thought no one was looking. And then Mason showed up. Out of nowhere, no warning. Just a knock on the door and a casual, "Hey kid," like no time had passed at all. He looked older, a little heavier, hair thinner, eyes the same. Olivia didn't slam the door, but she didn't invite him in either. They talked in the driveway while Jamie watched through the window. When Mason came back the next day, Jamie opened the door himself. They got burgers, sat in the car, listening to old songs. Mason swore Jamie used to love. He talked about his new apartment, his band, his writing. He said things like, "I've grown up a lot," and "I'm ready to be more consistent now." Jamie didn't believe him, but he wanted to. Mason talked like nothing had changed, like being back meant everything would reset. But Jamie had changed. He wasn't a kid anymore. He didn't want toys or road trips. He wanted someone who stuck around. Still, Jamie kept seeing him. Every other weekend, then more often. Mason tried, showed up on time, bought him a camera, asked questions about school. Jamie started opening up again, little by little. He told him about classes, about his photo project, even about the time he punched a kid for calling him a ghost. Mason laughed, proud. "That's my boy," he said. Jamie didn't laugh. At school, things got better. He joined the yearbook club, learned how to edit, took portraits of people who didn't know how to smile unless you told them to. For the first time, he started seeing people. Not just their faces, but the cracks in them. He liked that. It made him feel less alone. One night, Olivia sat him down, told him she and Rob were separating. "It's not dramatic," she said. "It just isn't working." Jamie nodded. He didn't feel angry. He didn't feel anything, just tired. Olivia asked if he was okay. He said yes, and this time he almost meant it. Mason offered to let Jamie stay with him for a while. Jamie said yes without hesitation. Olivia didn't fight it. She just nodded, hugged him longer than usual, and said, "Be good." Mason's place was small. 1 bedroom, 1 couch, stacks of books, an old record player. But it felt open, like breathing room. For the first time, Jamie didn't feel like a guest. But comfort doesn't fix everything. One night, Jamie asked Mason why he left. Why he really left. Mason didn't answer right away. He just looked down at his hands and said, "Because I didn't think I mattered enough to stay." That hit harder than Jamie expected, because for years he'd wondered if he'd done something wrong, if he'd been the reason. And now, hearing that, he realized it had never been about him at all. And somehow, that hurt more. Senior year came faster than Jamie expected. One minute he was just trying to keep his head down. The next, he was staring down deadlines, graduation packets, and the question no one could stop asking. "What are you doing after this?" Teachers pushed college brochures. Olivia pushed applications. Mason said, "You don't have to know yet. Just don't do nothing." Jamie wasn't sure what he wanted. He liked photography. He liked writing, even though he never showed anyone. But mostly, he liked quiet. Spaces where no one expected him to have a plan. Spaces where he didn't have to explain why he always felt like part of him was still catching up to the rest of his life. Living with Mason was easy. Too easy sometimes. They ate takeout, watched movies, talked about music, didn't talk about much else. Mason never pushed, never asked the hard questions. He wanted to be the cool parent, and Jamie let him. But the older he got, the more it started to feel like avoidance. Like his dad was just another teenager who never figured it out. Olivia, meanwhile, had gone back to school again, this time for a master's degree. She still worked long hours, still worried about money, but she was steadier, more grounded. Jamie saw it now. All the years she held everything together, while no one thanked her for it. Sarah came home for the holidays with a boyfriend and a new haircut. She was different, sharper, but still the same underneath. She pulled Jamie aside on Christmas Eve and said, "You doing okay?" He said, "Yeah." She looked at him for a second longer, then let it go. No speeches, just presence. It was enough. One afternoon, Jamie was sitting in the kitchen when Mason walked in holding a manila envelope. "Scholarship paperwork," he said. "Olivia said you qualified for something." Jamie took it, surprised. Mason sat down across from him. "You thinking about going?" Jamie shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe." Mason nodded. "You're smarter than I ever was at your age." Jamie looked up. "Then why do I feel stuck?" Mason didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Because you're thinking about everyone else, what they want, what they expect. You've got to start thinking about you." That night, Jamie stayed up late flipping through old photo prints, faces he barely remembered, moments that felt like another life. He realized he'd been documenting everything without knowing why. Maybe it was his way of holding on. Maybe it was proof that he hadn't just floated through all these years, that he'd seen it, felt it, survived it. A few weeks later, he applied to 2 colleges, one close, one far. He didn't tell anyone, not yet. Graduation was coming. Everyone was making plans, taking pictures, talking about the future, like it was a road trip they already packed for. Jamie wasn't packed. He didn't even know which direction to go. But for the first time, he felt okay not knowing. He wasn't there yet, but he was getting closer. Graduation came on a humid Friday afternoon, the kind where the sky feels heavy, like it might rain but never does. Jamie stood in a cheap gown with a name he barely recognized stitched on the front, surrounded by hundreds of faces all pretending they weren't terrified. The ceremony dragged. Speeches about potential, success, dreams. Jamie listened, but barely. He kept thinking about the last 12 years, about how everything felt slower while it was happening, and now it was all just memory. He looked out into the crowd and saw Olivia, smiling, proud, trying not to cry. Mason was there too, off to the side, wearing a wrinkled button-up and holding a camera. Sarah waved from the 3rd row. For a second, everything felt still. Later, at the house, there was cake, awkward toasts, more questions about college. Jamie smiled through most of it. When it was over, Mason pulled him aside and handed him a small black case. Inside was a used film camera, real vintage, scratches on the side. "Thought you might want something real," Mason said. Jamie nodded. "Thanks." He didn't know what else to say. They stood in silence for a while. Then Mason said, "I wasn't always good at being there. I know that. But you made it. You really did." Jamie looked at him and said, "Yeah, I did." A week later, an acceptance letter came. The out-of-state school, the one no one knew he applied to. Olivia read it twice. "You want to go?" she asked. Jamie didn't hesitate. "Yeah, I think I do." She nodded, swallowed hard, then said, "Okay, let's figure it out." The night before he left, he sat on the porch alone. No music, no phone, just quiet. He thought about the kid he used to be, the one who stared at ceilings and counted cracks, the one who moved too often, lost too many people, kept everything inside. That kid was still there, just smaller now, a part of him, not all of him. In the morning, Olivia hugged him first, said, "Call when you land," not just a text. Sarah ruffled his hair and told him to not be weird. Mason shook his hand, then pulled him into a hug. No one cried until he closed the car door. On the plane, Jamie took out the camera, shot a picture through the window as the city got smaller. He didn't know where it would end up, didn't know if he'd stay in school, or change majors, or fall in love, or mess it all up. But for the first time, the path ahead was his, no one else's. And that was enough.